Hi everyone, welcome to Keeping It Spiffy with PFH Prevention. Are you interested in change? In this podcast, we will talk about the strategic prevention framework and how it can teach groups of people to enact change throughout their communities. Join us to see how you can make a difference. Hey, hi everyone, welcome back to our next episode. This is Kylie.
And Edward.
And Edward. Okay, so to begin, we are starting off with 2 get to know you questions today because I couldn't decide on one. So the first one, it's simple. Have you ever cheated at a board game or a game that you played with other people? What was it and when was it?
That is a yes for me and anyone who has ever played Monopoly.
That's true. I don't cheat at Monopoly though. I get mad because other people cheat and I just want to win honestly.
Do you ever win?
No, I never win, ever.
Because you're not cheating enough.
Yeah, that makes sense. For me, I didn't think of a board game. I thought of a card game. And I thought of a specific instance in a Nerds game that I played with some people. And I hardcore cheated, but I still came in last place. So it's okay that I cheated. But yeah, never learned that.
That flies, right? It's okay that I cheated because I lost.
Yeah, probably not okay, but I didn't take the winning away from anyone. So we were still okay. Okay, and the second one, I just like this one. If you could uninvent something, what would it be?
Ooh, I don't know. These days, I think it would be Zoom.
Oh, that's bold.
I get tired of the online meetings. I want to see people again.
True. I think I had a different answer. Actually, no, I'm just going to stick with this answer. I don't like random decoration, like pottery decorations.
It's a pretty big category.
So like statues. I just wish
like
that
the Statue of Liberty.
I mean, I guess it's cool, but I don't see the point in them. Like they're just there. They're just taking up space. And there should be like a tree there instead. I don't know. I just don't like statues or objects. Just kidding. I like objects.
I don't like objects.
That take up space. Okay. Anyways, that's our get to know you segment. And yeah, I think everyone learned how much of a dingus I am. So this week, what we're talking about is the planning step of the SPF process, so strategic prevention framework. And Edward, what is the planning process in general?
Well, I think when you say planning, most people will assume it's pretty straightforward. But in the planning phase, you have to take the stuff you've already done. So the assessments and the capacity, and you have to start kind of deciding what you're going to do with those. You know, I mean, you know what your problems are because you've done the assessment. You know what you have to address those problems or what you're missing. Now you have to kind of take those things, put it together and decide, you know, this is what we're going to do to kind of, you know, to help with that problem.
Yeah. So what exactly is the point of this step? If you already have pretty much your assessment and your capacity figured out, why do you need a whole planning step to figure it out more?
Because you want to make it, you want to have steps, more or less. You want to know how to get from point A to point B, and for that you need a plan. So you really want to write this kind of thing down or put it on a computer, whatever. It needs to be out there, not just kind of rumbling around in your head. One of the biggest things that it does is it can help save you some money and it can help save time because you're not going to be scattered all over the place. You're not going to have other people doing the same approaches and stuff that you're doing. You're going to come up with your own unique idea. You're going to come up with your own way to do it. And you and the coalition, you're going to talk about it. You're going to delegate who's going to do what and stuff. And you'll have all that written down.
Yeah. So do you need a pretty solidified assessment and capacity in order to move to this step?
You really have to have a pretty solid assessment. That's going to be so core to your plan. Because the first thing you have to do is determine what your problem is. And in order to determine that, you have to have a really good assessment. So you have to have checked all that stuff we talked about in our assessment episode, and say, okay, based on everything we've learned, our number one problem is this. Maybe it's youth alcohol use. Maybe too many kids are drinking alcohol. Then you know what that problem is, and you can take and go from that. What helps to reduce youth alcohol use? Well, that's where you go again from that assessment. You figure out, well, how are they getting it, or what is going on with it? You find out that in your community, it's normal for youth to drink alcohol at a young age. It's not a big deal. A lot of people don't care about it. Well,
Yeah.
okay, so now we know alcohol use is high in youth. Why is it high? Because people in the community don't think it's that big of a deal for kids to drink. Now we can go on to the next step. How do we change that? What is our strategy for changing their minds to show them that alcohol use is not healthy? It's not a good approach. So, education or information dissemination, whatever that is. And you have those things written down as you go along.
Yeah. So is this, when we're talking about planning, is it pretty much an action plan?
An action plan is more part of implementation than planning. Planning is the big picture. When you get to doing the actual activity, event, strategy, whatever it is, then you have your action plan. And it says, okay, my action plan is, first thing we got to do is acquire this space. And we have to acquire the funding, or we have to, buy these things, or whatever it is. You write those down, and then you assign someone those tasks. And that's the action plan. Okay, we need to get a rental space. I need Kylie to get me that rental space. Kylie, I need you to report back to me, in 2 weeks, and have the date on that. And then in 2 weeks, I come back and I say, Kylie, you were supposed to get the rental space. Where's that at? And you say, oh, well, I got it on the 5th. And so that part of your plan is finished.
Okay. So would there be one person kind of delegating the tasks in this, or would it be the entire coalition, like all the stakeholders, all the community, like everyone that's in the coalition? Are they all a part of this planning process?
Exactly. Not every individual that's part of the coalition has to be part of the planning process, but you need those stakeholders, that core group. Some people call it the board, the coalition, or just the leadership. Those people have to come together. If you get too many voices in the planning process, then you don't get anything done. You have too many opinions, too many people saying we should do it that way, this way, this way. You really just need that smaller group that says, okay, here's what we want to do. Let's look at the potential problems, the benefits of this, and see if this is a good strategy for us. And so you just have those core stakeholders in that meeting. And then you have your larger group, which is your volunteers and community members that help you implement all that stuff. And then those are the people who get delegated those tasks.
Okay. So in this step, is this where the comprehensive strategies are?
Right. When we talk about comprehensive strategies, there are 7 of them that we use, and they're pretty general ideas: information dissemination, education, enhancing barriers, providing support, modifying or changing the policies of your area, changing the consequences or the incentives and disincentives. Things like that. So those are your strategies. So let's say we go with education. That one's simple, right? We're going to educate people on the risks of alcohol use in youth. And those people we're going to educate are most likely going to be the parents that say, well, I don't think it's a big deal for youth to be used. Or maybe we'll do we'll increase the barriers. And for that, we maybe have to change the physical design. So we go to the retailers that sell the alcohol and we say, can you move the alcohol away from these things that youth are going to be? It wouldn't make good sense for you to put alcohol displays next to the toy department.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, and that's a thing you can do too. Or there's like sticker campaigns. You go in and talk to the retailer and they let you put a sticker on every package of alcohol that says minors should not drink this because of this reason. You have to work with those community members.
Yeah, that makes sense. So this step is the step before implementation, which you've said a few times, but it's kind of just getting everything in one basket and getting it figured out in order to implement what you want to do.
Exactly. You got to know what you're doing, why you're doing it before you can do it.
Yeah. What do you think is the most important part of the planning process?
I think just having it written out, having like a logic model or something like that. In the SPIF, we use logic models because they're detailed. They have a nice flow to them. They're easy to read, even for new people. Some people get a little intimidated by a logic model, but it's really a core piece of the SPIF. So, and all it is it just says, okay, this is the problem. This is why it's a problem. This is why it's a problem here. This is what we're going to do about it. This is how we're going to do it. And this is what we hope to happen when we've done it.
Okay.
You know what I mean? It's pretty straightforward.
Would there be a way for me to find a logic model online, or like, do you have a logic model reference?
We have some logic model stuff that we have. We have workbooks and stuff that we do with our coalitions. One thing we don't do is we don't typically like just hand someone the picture or an empty logic model and say, do this, because again, it can be a little intimidating and we really want to walk people through it the first time. After they've done it once, everyone's kind of like, oh, this really wasn't as hard as it sounded.
Yeah. So would you say
you could just Google what is a logic model,
okay,
but you could get overwhelmed by just if you don't know if you've never done one before.
Yeah. True. So this step in general, just having it all written out, having your solid plan to go forward with what you want to do is why this step is very important.
Right. Yeah. And having those objectives at the end, like I said, this is what we hope to happen. So if I look at my assessment and my assessment says 22% of youth in X county are drinking alcohol regularly, then I want to go from that. That's my starting point. My ending point is that I want to reduce the percentage of youth that are drinking alcohol in my county by 1 or 2%. And so that's where I start at. That main objective or problem is connected to your end goal. You don't want to work backwards. You want to work forwards from that problem, moving over to the goal. But that's the main part, is just this is what I want to happen because of all this work that I'm doing.
Okay, that makes sense. Well, do you have any more advice for the planning step?
I think the most important part is to make sure you have it written down and written out somewhere, and your board or your stakeholders, whatever that group is of your coalition, everyone should know what it is. They should all have a part in it. They should all be working through it and referring back to it. You got to refer to the plan. Even here at our PRC, we make this exact plan every year and we work off of it. We have our goals at the end to reduce use and stuff, whatever the substance is for the data. And we're just constantly working back to it. And when we say, oh, we should do this event, then we look at our plan and say, well, does that make sense with what we're trying to do?
Yeah. That makes sense. Well, cool. Thank you for all that advice and information on the planning process. It definitely helped me to understand it a lot more. So I hope it helped our listeners to also understand it. If that's all you have today, then is that all you have?
That's all I got.
Cool. Well, join us next time for what is implementation in the SPIF process. And you guys will learn a lot of stuff from that, as I will as well. And we are excited for you guys to listen in again. Until then, thank you guys so much for listening. And please make sure to check us out at PFH Prevention on Facebook, Instagram, Spotify, really any social media. You can just search PFH Prevention. And you can check out our website at pfh.org/prevention. But thank you guys all for tuning in.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you for joining us for today's episode on Keeping It Spiffy. Make sure to check us out on Facebook, Instagram, Spotify, YouTube, and Twitter at PFH Prevention. If you want to connect with us, feel free to email us at moprevention@pfh.org or check out our website at pfh.org/prevention. See you next time.